Did you play any of Dirge of Cerberus?
Yeah, I did. A buddy of mine got it day one because he's a Final Fantasy nut, and we played it at his house, and he immediately passed the controller to me, and he was like, I don't know if I like this. And I'm like, it's nifty. I see what they were going for, but...
You know that before Dirge of Cerberus, he just wanted to make a Final Fantasy shooter, and they briefly considered Barrett as well as Irvine from 8.
Yeah.
We'll get to Dirge.
Oh, my God.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Raw Dogs. We are on episode 11 here.
Really, only? It feels like we've been doing this forever.
But it also feels like it's been a while since we've gotten together. Mm-hmm. We recorded a lot in anticipation of a Disney World trip and Midwest Gaming Classic, which unfortunately didn't happen.
I should ask Tom for that refund.
Yeah. If you gave him money, I'm glad I hadn't paid him yet.
Yeah, I'm going to ask for that back. It's going to be necessary going forward.
Australia and Europe, some locations will be getting Final Fantasy VII Remake early.
Oh, lucky them.
Yeah, Square made an official tweet announcement about it.
Oh, I did see that. I saw that yesterday, right?
Yeah, that was surprising. Just due to shipping restraints, we're going to be sending out some early, so please don't spoil it.
Don't spoil it. What do you mean?
They're expanding on a lot.
I guess you're right. As you'll find out through our discussion, there are opinions I didn't realize I had about this game. We played through it recently, right?
We both just played through Final Fantasy VII. Mm-hmm. I beat it again yesterday.
Yeah.
Yep. How many times have you beat FF7?
In my teen years, I probably beat it 3 times, and then maybe once in my mid-20s.
Mm-hmm. I beat it probably 2 or 3 times back in middle school, high school.
Yeah.
And I know I beat it once around mid-20s, and I played that on an emulator on my computer. So I did save state it, but I didn't cheat any other way there. And I did beat the weapons. I put in the time to...
Oh. Did you do that this time?
No. I
just wanted to get to the end.
I considered it, but I played it this time on the Switch. That ×3 function is great.
Yes.
And I was
it's a godsend.
Besides that, I was trying to just play the game pretty straightforward. I just became lazy, and I hit that button that gives you... HP and MP refilling constantly.
Oh, really?
As well as infinite limit breaks.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
so
my God.
My thought was, I'll just do that because I'm sick of random battles, but I still want to level up, so I don't want to do the skip the random battles thing.
Right.
But then I wound up only playing for the story. Yeah, but that was okay because I just needed to get through that before we got together to talk about the game today.
I'll tell you what, it's easy to get Knights of the Round when you have that ×3 function.
Oh, man. Chocobo breeding was much nicer this time around. I could actually just straight up watch a YouTube video and just hold the buttons. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And luckily there's enough guides these days to where you don't really have to worry about anything.
As I did find out, some guides are fantastic. I went to GameSpot for my guide, and there was one I had that was the guy was just rambling on too much about his personal experiences. Those types of guides where it's just and then they try to put in a silly joke and then this boss is kind of like this character.
Yeah.
It's oh boy. People just come here for information, dude. You don't need to inject your personality into this.
Yep. I remember GameFAQs back in the days. Oh man, there were some gems on some guides there. So everyone has an opinion on Final Fantasy VII, whether or not they've played it. I think most people have a lot of nostalgia for the game.
Almost to an unhealthy degree. I would agree.
Absolutely. When I go back to my high school art projects, let's just say I learned how to draw Cloud and Sephiroth about 1,000 different ways.
Yes.
Yep. Oh, there's a real cringy one. I'll try and get a picture of that. But
oh my God, I would love to see that. That is so funny.
Yep. Yeah. Oh my. It was for a calligraphy thing. So I just did a quote from this dude in Rocket Town who's talking about the meaning of life. But then I just cut out printed versions of the characters, and then I drew Sephiroth holding a materia in the background, but I didn't know how to make him angry, so he looks really happy. And it's got calligraphy on it.
Well, I mean, if he's holding the black materia, he would be happy about that.
Yeah, he's pretty happy about that. But we're Raw Dogs. We're a podcast that kind of does deep dive discussions. We drink beer on this one. We're not going to drink too much today since we are going to be talking for a long time. We'll get to it later.
Yeah, we'll be pacing ourselves pretty heavy
because we have a lot we want to talk about. But I just cracked open from 1840. We Go Together Like. This is a sour ale with, it's a peanut butter and jelly sour.
Oh, really?
And it is one of my favorite beers of all time. It's surprising how much peanut butter you actually get in this beer for it being like a sour.
It's right on the tail end. Mm-hmm. It's really nice. That's a great mouthfeel.
A great mouthfeel. That's what they say about raw dogs, too, when people try it out.
Mm-hmm. Our dynamic, I am the person who kind of shows up and wings it because I just happen to know a lot of stuff, and Brad is...
And what was your name?
Oh, I'm Big Tex, Dylan.
Dylan? Yep. And I already forgot what my other nicknames are. I'm Big Papa B-Rad, Old Papa B-Rad.
Okay, good. That's a good one.
Yeah, and we both did research for this episode, though.
Oh, my God.
So apart from Final Fantasy VII, which the main focus of this episode, as well as the next part, probably is going to be focusing on the PlayStation 1 game and the self-contained lore within that. We'll probably just riff on it a little bit, but
we'll be talking about that because I think you can't bring this up without talking about the story beats anyway. We'll insert some personal anecdotes in there, I imagine.
But for the research for the Final Fantasy VII series we're doing, we read the 2 novellas, The Kids Are All Right, a Turk's Side Story, which is like a detective book about the illegitimate son of a main character. We read On the Way to a Smile, the worst title for a book ever. It's kind of like an epilogue to the main game leading into Advent Children. We read a couple other books. We watched way too many YouTube videos on Before Crisis and Dirge of Cerberus.
I watched an entire playthrough of Crisis Core.
That's actually a really good game.
Yeah, I don't have the energy to play it myself, and it's kind of impossible to find anyway, unless you still have that PSP UMD lying around somewhere.
My brother has it. I could get you that to borrow if you.
I don't have a PSP.
And we're going to be Final Fantasied out, I think, after this month because a couple weeks we're going to have the remake in our hands.
Oh yeah,
which is exciting.
I'm gonna have to come here and play that with you because I don't have a PS4.
Interesting.
Yeah,
but we did a lot of research, and I feel like I have a pretty good understanding of the Final Fantasy VII universe. So should we jump in?
Absolutely.
So 2,000 years ago.
2000.
Which alien species do we want to talk about first? The Ancients or the Calamity?
Well, I think we can't get into this before me just saying the one thing that stood out in this game right away.
Okay.
This is Exposition Dump, the video game. This is a game where people love to tell you things that happened before, but they're never going to show it. So they give you these vague concepts like the Cetra, Genova.
Yeah, apart from Eris, you don't see any Cetra at all.
No. Ifalna,
briefly.
Yeah. And it's a shame.
I think that the remake is going to have some really great background stuff on these concepts.
Yeah.
But yeah, you do get talked to a lot about this. I mean, apart from the Nibelheim incident and a flashback here or there, you get told a lot of stuff.
It's interesting because it's such a high fantasy concept, and they kind of breeze over certain aspects of it, and they just kind of ask you to go along with it, almost as if you are truly following these characters. Like, they're never going to be able to see any of that because obviously they're not time travelers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what's tricky with this game is even concepts with Genova and who Cloud is, who Sephiroth is. The characters themselves are told incorrect information, and you as a player are told the wrong information multiple times.
Yes. And then you have to sort it out at the end.
I don't think that I had I know I didn't have a proper understanding of the game back when I played it as a kid.
Well, the Nibelheim incident especially, there's a point where I still have a friend who thinks that Cloud is still a clone of Sephiroth. But that was a lie that Cloud told Sephiroth.
Sephiroth told Cloud.
Oh, yeah, that's what I meant. That's a lie that Sephiroth told Cloud to basically just fuck with him.
Well, then you also have Hojo, who's
God.
I think he's confused on all of the experiments he's done. He gets them confused together because I think he thinks that that Cloud is a Sephiroth clone as well.
Well, Hojo experimented on Zack and Cloud in the 4 years after the Nibelheim incident. So he called Cloud a failed experiment because he was injecting him with Mako.
Mm-hmm. And Genova cells.
I don't know why I wasn't clear on that.
What was tricky for me to parse out was how Genova was given to all of the characters necessarily, because the reason Sephiroth was the most successful of the Genova experiments was because the cells were injected directly into the womb of a pregnant woman.
Yep.
Whereas you have a character like Genesis, who his mother was given the cells before he was born.
Oh my God.
Yeah, Crisis. Oh man, that expanded lore has got some weird stuff.
I've got a personal headcanon for a lot of this stuff. The stuff I read, there are some bits I kind of take out and some I replace in my mind, because this whole Genesis Angeal thing really, I know why they had to add those characters. They needed to give someone for Zack to talk to that wasn't Sephiroth.
I don't think Genesis was a bad character. I think that not Angeal.
Angeal is the mentor for Zack, yeah.
No, Genesis is the one in the red coat. Yeah, Genesis.
Pretty boy.
Pretty boy sucks because he's actually based on a Japanese rock star named Gact.
Well, that's why there isn't a remaster of that. It's because they don't have the rights to his face anymore.
Well, use a new fucking face. Okay, so okay, the opening of Final Fantasy VII. There's just one shot in like the first 10 minutes that has Loveless. Just like as this like billboard, and it was a My Bloody Valentine album. It's just a reference to that like a creator threw in there. All right, let's have an entire character who is kind of like an equivalent to Sephiroth that is obsessed with a play and only speaks in play quotes. It became way too big of a plot point, and the fact that once you're given Genova cells, eventually you just grow one wing.
Yes,
love it.
And some of the wings are black and some of the wings are white, in the case of Angeal.
I think it's because Angeal's a good guy. I don't know. Don't quote me on that. But
Angeal, he's a good guy. He's obsessed with honor. Eventually he gets turned into a dog.
Yes. Yep. Of course, President Rufus Shinra's real brother, who was Lazard, the guy in charge of Soldier, he becomes an Angeal clone somehow and helps Zack escape in the end.
When you start like looking up the timeline and how old these people were, when Zack met Eris, she was 15 years old.
Oh, is that right?
Yes. And she was a brat.
I think Eris's character over time, people have kind of just imagined her to be real virginal and innocent and kind of mild-mannered, but she's got a bigger personality than people remember.
Yeah.
She's the one who pushes Cloud to like, we got to get you in a fucking dress now, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's got like kind of a wild side.
Yeah.
One thing I know that they're expanding in the remake is her past, because she spent half of her life being tested on in Shinra, probably living close to Sephiroth. They're going to touch on some of that. I know that they mentioned that in one of the new videos.
Well, one thing that I found really illuminating I believe it was 500 Years Later, which is a book that has a series of interviews with a bunch of the creators. One of the things that originally they were planning on was they were going to make Sephiroth and Eris actually related because they have the same bangs, essentially.
Yeah. Oh, that was something they were considering, and maybe even having like a romance between the two. And maybe they did
at some point, maybe
because they did spend time together, and they are kind of linked, kind of opposite from each other, because she is the last descendant of the ancients, the Cetra, which they did come to the planet to kind of settle it and develop some of the life. They're a nomadic people. When the Cetra stopped moving around and decided to kind of make roots, that's when they became humans. And the humans are an offshoot of the Cetra.
One other thing that really struck me is that there's a fan theory that Final Fantasy VII and Final Fantasy X take place in the same exact universe.
Not a theory. It's fact.
What?
It's pretty much canon. I forget if it was Kazushige Nojima or which creator said it, but he said in one of like the Ultimanias, he's like, yeah, there's no like official timeline, but at some point, one of the descendants of Shinra from FF10, who talks about wanting to use the power of the planet, like one of his descendants finally figured it out.
Wow. Okay.
But
I'm gonna have to look into that.
And I mean, the far plane isn't too far away from the concept of the life stream.
No, it's extremely close, and it's also very close in the way that how they describe how the monsters are created. They're treated as like these abnormalities, but in 10 they call them fiends. And they're literally created from dead souls who can't make their way to the far plane, which would make sense because Genova still has so much control over the life stream and the planet. She's still like a blight upon it. So it makes absolute sense. Because when you approach it from that level, the monsters' designs take on a bit more of like importance, because in a lot of Final Fantasies, if you're unaware, Sometimes the monster designs, sometimes they're just wacky and weird, and you're just like, all right. You just kind of pass it over. Usually there's like no lore explanation. It's not like Dark Souls where every little like enemy design means something to the entirety of it.
Yeah.
But I mean, even when you go back and you're in the abandoned train station, and there's house monsters.
Everybody talks about the Hell House. It's fascinating. I mean, it starts off looking like a normal house, so it's like luring in the poor people of the area. And then it turns into a monster and tries to kill you.
Yes. I can't wait to see that in the remake, by the way. That's one thing.
This was the first Final Fantasy game without Amano, Yoshitaka Amano, doing the art for it. And it's interesting if you look into these Ultimania books, because he'll have these amazing artwork designs for the monsters.
I'm a huge Amano fan.
And they'll just adapt them into this tiny little 8-bit thing, and it works. For this one, they didn't have that, so I think a lot of the monster design, they kind of just said, "Go for it, just go for it," and you get some real bizarre creatures, and I'm excited to see them get expanded upon in a big way.
I mean, Amano, I've always been a huge fan. There's still an article from my high school. I got interviewed because I don't know, like a profile of someone who they thought was good at art. They asked who my favorite artists were. One was Yoshitaka Amano, because I loved all of his paintings, even the non-Final Fantasy stuff, and Bryant, who was a pretty decent comic book artist at the time. But Amano is fantastic. Look up his other stuff, not just like Final Fantasy concept art. They make great wallpapers for your for your computer.
A lot of pale-skinned, white-haired people.
A lot of pretty boys, yeah.
But just the epic scenes, because like all of Final Fantasy 1, it would just look so 8-bit if you didn't have those like images you've seen of the 4 warriors and this giant monster. Like, it paints a real picture of what's actually going on in your head. And
exactly.
It lends to the fantasy for sure. Back to FF7.
Yes.
So the ancients are on the planet, and they help cultivating it. And there's a thing called the life stream in the planet. Mm-hmm. It's even like an ocean.
It's almost the planet's like circulatory system and its consciousness.
Yeah.
It's the best way to describe it. It's very Jungian, actually. The idea that we all have like this collective unconsciousness that we can all kind of tap into if we have the right means and method. And materia is kind of the shamanistic way of them tapping into the life stream. Because materia, which gives you your magic in the game, is made from concentrated parts of the life stream.
Yep. Concentrated parts where it'll actually rise up from the ground and like crystallize. That's where materia comes from. The life stream, it's an ocean, it's a consciousness. It can actually take a physical form, in Crisis Core is the ultimate enemy of the game. We're not going to talk about that.
I'm not worried about that. We'll get to that in the lower one.
That's what's going on Gaia, which is the name of the planet, when the calamity from the sky shows up.
Genova herself.
It's the thing.
It's the thing.
It's the thing. It's so great because it it lands at the northern crater.
Yeah.
And all of the ancients, and again, this is something that you don't see, but you hear about.
Yes.
But
exposition.
They approach it, and Genova emerges having taken on the image and likeness of other ancients.
Yeah.
And it winds up being able to infect people because that's the nature of Genova. It wants to take over, conquer, infect, spread.
It's parasitic. It goes from planet to planet, literally just doing this all over the place, wherever it can find life. Essentially, that's Sephiroth's goal at the end of the game. That's what he essentially wants, right?
Do you imagine? So Hojo has the reunion theory that Genova cells will try to come back and merge with each other. How much consciousness do you think there is in Genova? Or is it just this blind desire to go forward and conquer and eat more and then move on?
Well, this kind of breaks the trend in Final Fantasy where you usually have your villain presented to you, but in the final act, a new, crazier like force of nature is given to you that you have to fight.
It's not Kuja.
It's a giant blob in space. Like, it's like a giant, or like Final Fantasy VIII, it's Ultimecia. It's not Idea. Well, in 6, it is still Kefka. But he actually succeeded in destroying the world.
In 10, it isn't actually Sin. It's Yu Yevon.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll get there. Oh, and then you get to play 10 too, which you're going to love.
I'm going to play it. I have all the time in the world.
It's got a pretty cool battle system.
I've heard.
It's just wrapped around and putting on new dresses, though.
I mean, watching like pretty anime girls dress up, that's not the worst.
I was surprised to learn that Kazushige Nojima did a novella for FF10 after FF10 2. It's called FF10 2.5.
It's actually on the remaster.
Oh, really?
I could read it on my screen if I wanted to.
Cool. I was curious to check that out. But the few remaining Cetra, they were able to contain Jenova in the northern crater, where Jenova remained frozen for thousands of years.
Essentially crystallized.
I don't know how you can make sure that you've got all of this kind of ethereal virus thing contained. And honestly, people, they refer to Jenova as mother and a woman. It's genderless, in my opinion. It is a alien being that
it could take on any form anyway. But it's interesting how it did choose the form of a woman. Motherhood is a strange. The theme of this game is life. It's like how you deal with life, what life is, people coming in and out of your life. And I think that motherhood is a good kind of symbolic representation of that. So it's extremely appropriate. The fact that, would Sephiroth have responded as well if it was his dad, you know?
Daddy,
please. No, like mothers.
Daddy and I are going away. We're going to conquer the planet.
Well, another thing that I also found funny is that the women in this game are usually pretty like well rounded out and like pretty level headed.
Tifa's kind of pointy.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the men are the fucked up ones.
Even, Tifa, she lost all of her family.
Yeah.
She had to see her dead father. She lost her mother earlier. And she saw her entire town get burned down. Mm-hmm. She thought it was all done. Then she just has this ghost show up at a train station in Cloud. Mm-hmm. And does she panic? She's like, I'm taking him in. I'm not going to push him on the matter because clearly he's fucked up.
Yeah.
She's calm. She's collected. She's supportive. And then you have Cloud just like talking shit and pretending he's like
fuck. Oh, God, yeah.
Barrett just, anytime he gets mad, I'm going to shoot my gun at something. Which, hilarious. They bring it up in one of the novellas even.
Yeah.
He's having this inner debate on whether or not he's a monster.
Yeah.
And he shoots into like the ceiling of Sid's warehouse and Sid's like, you're going to fucking pay for that. It's like, maybe you are a monster, Barrett. Red 13 is dealing with the loss of his tribe and the cowardice of his father. Ketchi.
Yeah, well, it's Reeve, and it's basically he has to deal with the fact that he's kind of aiding this horrible company and he doesn't want to. Spoiler alert, Ketchi is Reeve, who is a Shinra member.
Did you know that Reeve was the one who created the reactors for Midgar?
Really? I thought he was only a part of urban development.
He was the one who created the actual reactors. I don't know if he made all of them, but I know that he's the one who made them for Midgar.
Why did he choose to be a little cat?
Yeah. Dude, that's like a Moogle hole you go down.
Truly, Ketchi is one of my favorite party members just because he's kind of wild and his limit breaks are fun.
That's too unpredictable.
I like the unpredictable aspect.
The fact that you can get an instant game over, too much fear.
I like the pressure, baby.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Like even when you get to Vincent's screwed up big time.
Oh, he's even more screwed up than I thought when you get into Dirge of Cerberus and you learn a little bit more about him.
Oh, boy.
We'll get there.
Yes.
And then I guess the only other big main topic before the game starts is like Shinra. It's a company. It's a city. It's a propaganda machine.
Well, originally it was just an electric company.
Yeah.
But then after they discovered using Mako energy as a fuel source, they actually they expanded and they became the Shinra Corporation, and they did everything at that point.
And the current president when the game starts, I don't know if they ever give his first name, President Shinra, he's the one who actually started the company.
Right.
He's the first one that made the first reactor that created Midgar. Mm-hmm. It's amazing how fast things happen in this universe because 2 years after 7, there's a whole city built called Edge. I'm like, that's a fucking fast city. Let's all...
Yeah.
Maybe it's made out of necessity.
Well, they used old parts from Midgar.
Yeah.
It's not crazy. All the material was there. Mm-hmm. So, it makes sense. In Japan, everyone seems older than they are. Like, because when you hear the age of Cloud in Final Fantasy VII, he's 20 at the start of the game, right?
Let me pull out the PlayStation 1 game
manual. All right, we actually have it.
All right.
Because I believe in Advent Children, he's 22.
Cloud is 21. He is a mercenary. 5'7", August 19th, and something that's
5'7", what a shorty.
what's important to note, something I'm glad that they put in these manuals, is his blood type is AB. So if you ever need to know what his blood type is,
Well, they actually in Japan, a lot of the time they associate blood type with personalities.
oh really?
Yeah.
So it's like a zodiac sign for us.
Kind of, but they associate like your temperament with that. It's just a thing they've had for a long, long time.
Wait, I want to see one other thing in this manual before I close it. I want to see how tall Ketshi is. Ketshi, well, fuck, they only give the
size of him on the
stuffed
Moogle.
cat, not the robot Moogle. So he's 3'2" as just the cat.
Really? That's pretty big.
And the Moog, yeah, and then you have the Moogle. I wonder if the Moogle has a name. They never mention it.
Moogie.
Let's go, Moogie. I can't do a Scottish accent.
I'm still surprised he has a Scottish accent.
Well, it was only in the American version of Advent Children. I am going to just strongly believe they're going to change that for remake part 2 or whatever.
Or part 5, who knows?
I was trying to parse it out while I was playing the game where they're going to break it up. I think the second one, they might even get to Aerith's death.
That would make sense.
It would be a good ending point, and there's still a lot that happens after that. They're going to expand so much on Midgar in this game because it is a giant city. It's interesting the ideas and the themes that they kind of are exploring with Midgar. It's a little on the head. The poor people live below, and then there's a plate where the rich people live above. It's ran by corporations parading around as a government. Even the mayor is in Shinra Tower. He's like, I don't do anything.
I don't have to.
I made a puzzle.
I know. Oh my God. It felt.
I moved the books around in the library. Go look around for the missing books. I'm the mayor.
I'm going to say this. I really am not a fan of the first Midgar section.
I think it gets a lot of things right.
Story-wise, yeah.
I do love the fact that the villain is Shinra. The entire opening act of the game, you are thinking this is the big bad. They're killing the planet with the life stream. And it's not until like the very end of Shinra Tower where you encounter Genova and then you think you encounter Sephiroth, but it's just Genova. And then you're like, all of it's turned on its head and you realize that there's something much bigger going on. I like that story beat. I don't know. The characters are paced out well, I feel. Barrett and Tifa are given time to shine before you get separated from them.
I can't even imagine what they're going to do for like just giving them like more backstory, giving them more thoughts and feelings.
Well, I know at one point, Cloud moves into an apartment next to Tifa.
Are you kidding?
He actually has a place of residence in the game.
Instead of Cloud sleeping in the basement of Seventh Heaven,
yeah,
he's just because when you play the game, it feels like it takes place over maybe 3 days at most.
Okay, make a bet because I know from the timeline. How long do you think it is for the entire Final Fantasy VII game?
You know, when you consider how far they had to travel and what they had to do, and then Cloud's comatose time and the huge materia race, I'm going to guess maybe 6 months.
Reasonable guess.
Yeah.
Oh, like a guess you'd expect to be right.
Yeah.
Nope. December 9th of the year 0007 to January 21st of the year 0008. It happens over 30 fucking days.
30 days?
Or 31, whatever, with December 31st. That's the official timeline. I was blown away when I saw that. I was like, there's no way. I think they just...
Well, that's going to change for this game if Cloud has a fucking apartment.
Yeah. Because then there's like a mandatory 7-day period at the end where Cloud says, everyone go away, find your own reasons for fighting, come back in 7 days or whatever. Because there's like a 7-day break where he lets everyone figure stuff out. So that cuts off.
Oh, no.
Because I imagine even just the ship from Junon to Costa del Sol, that's like a 3-4 day at least adventure.
Oh, what's that going to be like in the game? Gross.
Yeah, but Cloud actually has an apartment, and they're going to expand on stuff. And just all of Midgar, it's huge.
Yeah.
It's a huge place. You're going to be able to go through every sector, and you're going to spend a lot of time on the upper plate as well as the lower plate.
I'm imagining a ton of side quests.
Yeah, I think that they said recently that they're going to cut back on some of the side quests because they only want side quests that are worth it and enhance the story in the game.
Or maybe to get some like extra materia, stuff like that.
I know one new character they're adding. His name is Chadley. which
Chadley.
He's a 15-year-old materia researcher, and he rewards you with materia for doing fetch quests or whatever for him.
Chadley.
Yep, I like the name. As Bradley and someone who...
Chadley.
I'm like, yeah, I was like, wow, you really went for it there. You got Chadley. There's a new character, Roche, who is an ex-member of Soldier who's kind of fucking around with Cloud at certain points. You've seen him in some trailers.
Interesting.
But we both played the demo. No, you haven't played the demo.
I have not touched the demo.
Oh, well, we'll have you play the demo after this.
Okay. I'm into it.
Just from the way that they expanded on that initial assault on Reactor 1, I think there's at least 20 hours of solid story gameplay that they're going to be able to weasel out. They're going to have to expand on some things because you have the assault on Reactor 1, the botch attempt on Reactor 5,
Yeah.
Wall Market, and then you have the pillar attack, and then you go up to the tower.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some like little story beats between there, but those are like the main like quests.
Well, and yeah, and it's basically 4 story beats then.
There's not a lot, and they're going to expand on that for sure and give you all of Midgar to run around in. But I'm curious story-wise how they're going to flesh it out. I know that Wall Market, they're adding Don Corneo. How do you say that?
Corneo.
I say Corneo too. He has his own arena. You can fight monsters. So they're going to have like...
Oh, sick.
Yeah, great.
That's cool. What a good idea anyway. I mean, Wall Market is maybe the most... I don't know. For me, when I was younger, that part of it was very confusing. One of the things I'll say is that this is the first 3D Final Fantasy, and a lot of the environment is very hard to read.
I do love the backgrounds.
The backgrounds look gorgeous, but in terms of their function and how they work as a map,
How you actually move around them, it's very unclear.
yeah.
And they weren't sure when they were making the game if
so they
if
used the select button.
the select button so you could like have the little cursor arrows, and which I like to use too, just to know so I can know where all the exits are real quick. I'll put that on when I have my ×3 mode going so I can get through things quick. I love the opening of the game. You know, you have the beautiful opening cutscene, but then immediately it's just right into the action. You're fighting right away.
Yes.
And it meets out the different gameplay elements at a pretty good pace. The demo doesn't do that.
No.
But no, the demo, you have every battle for like your first 10 battles. It introduces another concept. And it feels a little intense at first. I mean, I liked it. I liked how it felt overall. I wish it kind of had more of an FF12 vibe. I was talking with Allison about that actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, and where it kind of will battle, just do like the basic attacks by itself, and then you can interrupt to do like commands and stuff like that.
Oh, so it basically like pauses.
I wish that's how I mean, that's ideally how it would go. There is like a story mode version of the battle, which that's how it is. Otherwise, it's, I think, just a much more refined FF15 feel to it. I do like that the characters all fight very differently. Just switching over from Barrett from Cloud.
Yeah.
They have different gameplay like types, and I've heard Tifa is a brawler. You have to get up close.
Well, of course.
And Eris, I heard they kind of are drifting away from physical attacks, and she's just going to be more like casting magic remotely, like a long distance magic caster.
Oh, so she's kind of going to be the black mage,
Just the mage.
the mage.
Yeah.
Because I mean, originally she is seen as the white mage, the healer. Maybe that's why people find her so virginal and maidenly.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm more of a Tifa guy myself, but
When I was a kid, Eris was the first girl who ever flirted with me. So I was like,
you're
yeah.
just like, oh man. And then
and then you have Tifa's big tits show up. I'm like, I don't know what to do with you. You're scaring me.
I do like that they lowered the size of her tits.
To make them still like pretty big but reasonable.
Yeah, it upset some people apparently.
Come on.
I mean, like,
Let's make a petition.
how's she supposed to fight with those?
But yeah, so I mean, and those are the only 4 characters you get to play as. You get Red 13 near the end, but he's not a playable character, which I think is reasonable because he's only going to be there for like the very last beats of the game.
So these are going to be parties of 3, like in the game, right?
And well, like with Red 13, he's going to be a guest character. So you'll have, it's going to be kind of like in 12,
like Tarzan,
where you can have 3, but then you'll have the guest, or like Tarzan in Kingdom Hearts, yes. Yeah, so you have like a 3+1 type thing there. I do love, I mean, the soundtrack and the opening scene. It's driving, and what's cool was with the battles in that opening, the soundtrack doesn't switch over to the battle song. It just keeps the Assault on the Reactor music going, only for this one section of the game. That and I think with maybe after Ares gets killed with Genova, that like sad music continues through the battle. Yeah,
which Nobuo Uematsu, the composer.
Dude is like up there with the best composers of all time.
Well, have you followed him after this?
You know, I've listened to all of his music. Yeah, I mean, I know that he did stuff for some other games like Lost Dragon and
Lost Odyssey and Blue
Lost
Dragon.
Odyssey and Blue Dragon.
Those are some of the best soundtracks.
Yeah.
Blue Dragon is insanely good. That final boss music, it's called "The Seal Is Broken." It is fucking rad. I'll say this. I think he's done better work than 7.
I think 7 has such a unique place in time, though.
Yeah.
Where it's the first jump onto the PlayStation disc.
Yeah.
It's a relic of its time.
Yeah.
And, you know, I have that weakness that everybody my age that like loves the game, it's so nostalgic. To me, it has the effect of lullabies, like that's so ingrained in my brain that music will just like put me in a different frame of mind immediately.
I found the game when I was in like a really difficult place as a teenager. And so there's a part of me that plays it. And sometimes I hear Water, which is the theme for Eris. And sometimes I'm just like, oh, I feel really gross.
Yeah.
I feel gross.
Well, the whole tone of the game and most of the music, it's super melancholy. It's a depressing world. Everything's falling apart. Everyone's families are dead. There's moments of levity, but overall the tone is just like fucked. It's got a like real melancholy feel to it. And you know, you meet Barrett for the first time, and I was like, oh my God, he swore. He swore in a video game, and I thought that was the coolest thing. Then you see Sid, and I was like, oh, okay. You can really swear, too.
Oh, man. Well, Sid, he's probably my least used party member.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
He was my favorite party member this playthrough.
I really like his character, but for some reason, I don't know. Part of me was like, oh, he felt kind of tacked on. I mean, not as tacked on as, well, actually, Vincent feels pretty integral.
No, but I didn't get that at all.
Really?
He was so like added at the last second. His dialogue is bad. He almost never contributes anything other than, yeah. So there's no character to him, which I guess if you want to read into his brooding, but both him and Yuffie were added very last second. They weren't sure if they're going to have him like around there. That's why even in like that's why they're optional characters, and that's why a lot of it isn't as fleshed out.
Do you think they'll be optional in the remake?
No, absolutely not.
No, yeah.
No, they are going to be mandatory. I was thinking if they would maybe like try and move some things around, because I do imagine this is going to be a three-part remake is what I imagine. 3 discs for the original game.
Do you really think so?
I think so.
Or you think they're going to milk it?
I don't think they need to milk it. If anything, they can just have a side quest DLC for the 3rd game, which can be a big expansion where it just finally drops in all the extra stuff. But to me, it's not something that they should be milking. I think the decision to make the first game just Midgar is not one out of we're trying to get the most money out of it. It's just realistically, there's a lot to do there. If we're going to make an entire city of Midgar, I mean, after that, you have Calm. You have a city or like a town with, 20 buildings.
Calm.
You have Chocobo Ranch. You have a mine. Those things are not going to require you to develop an entire city.
Do you think there's going to be a lot of overworld exploration?
I'm not sure how they're going to do that. I think they have to do an overworld map.
Yeah.
Just because I think people are going to expect it.
Do you think they might go the 10 route and kind of make it almost like paths and corridors?
I would be okay with that, I think. Or even the FF15 way. I mean,
that's open. I mean, that's
very
an
open
world game, but it's also not a very interesting world.
As long as I don't have to watch cutscenes of them using Coleman camping equipment when they're on their way to like the Gungaga village,
or eating like branded ramen.
Seeing Red 13 eat branded ramen would be fun.
I just want to hear his voice.
Yeah,
I wonder how because he didn't really talk in Advent Children, did he?
One line.
It was like,
there are still children who need the cure.
Oh my God.
And at that point, everyone's like, oh shit, you can talk. We weren't sure anymore because you haven't literally said a fucking word. You let a 3'2" cat ride you and speak in a Scottish accent. Thanks, Nanaki.
And then you all took turns boosting Cloud into the air.
Hey, hurry up there, Cloud.
Get up.
Here you go. Yeah, and then so in the demo, it gets through that first assault on the reactor. And something that they either changed or they made much more explicit was President Shinra has the bomb set off himself. Because you escape and then they blow up the bomb.
Yeah, I heard about this.
Don't you step back from the fact that they're eco-terrorists. I think the fact that they are terrorists, without that hanging on the characters' like heads for the rest of the game, their initial attack on that reactor has profound effects on Midgar, and I think it's important that they actually go through with it. But Jessie does have a line in the game, not the demo, but the original, where she says that bomb was a lot bigger than I thought it was going to be. I need to be more careful.
Oh wow!
It's just like one line.
Yeah,
though.
I do. I don't even remember that.
Yep, it's just like a throwaway line, but it's funny how something that happened 20 or whatever years ago when this game came out, if a developer was lazy and they threw in this line, like, well, that's world defining. We need to figure out how to work that in now.
And I think they don't want you to hate these characters. In the first one, there's like a distance you could kind of put your brain at. But when you're playing this remake, I feel like the world is going to feel so like ingrained. Maybe they didn't want you to be like, oh, this feels kind of gross, because that was Final Fantasy VII wasn't a pre 9/11 world. So I think a lot of sensitivity comes from that.
I just love the extreme nature of Barrett. Again, a character who lost his hometown and his arm and his best friend. He's raising his friend's kid. His answer to that is, I'm going to shoot my fucking gun arm at everything and take down Shinra. Which, I mean, they are sucking the planet of its energy.
Yeah.
I mean, they're shitty. They're a shitty corporation, to be sure, but it's just interesting that they're putting more of that onto Shinra, the company, because we already knew that they blew up Sector 7's plate, which that's terrorism right there.
Yeah, but I mean, like, they're the propaganda machine, so they can make it seem like Avalanche did it, yada, yada. One of the things I do hope they get into is nobody else in the entire world really kind of gives a shit about what's going on in Midgar.
Yeah.
They're kind of doing their own thing. You would imagine that news would travel pretty quick and that maybe people would have opinions on Avalanche all throughout the world. I didn't really find that in 7.
No.
Everyone was kind of concerned with their own stuff.
Yeah, the level of technology is a little abstract. Because
they'll have helicopters, they'll have boats.
They have essentially cell phones, which are going to now be real cell phones instead of calling them the PHS. I don't even know what PHS stands for. Personal hand
service, something like that.
I'd like to get one of those.
From Tifa, maybe.
Hey.
No, it's interesting. I feel like they have an opportunity here to make a more cohesive world, because Final Fantasy, you're so used to going to like the ice place, the desert place, and none of it ever feels real. Like, it just feels like, oh, you're a tourist. You're going from town to town.
It needs to be more interconnected. There's even just like great advertisements in the demo there's like a bomb, and it's like bomb energy drink, or it's called Red Lord bomb energy drink.
Oh yeah.
And they have icicle in water, like icicle water.
Oh my God.
And
do you think they're going to do snowboarding in this?
Yep. Oh yeah.
Oh, no.
See, I think there are a certain number of things they have to do. People love it so much they would be.
People like snowboarding.
Dude, I liked it.
I hated it.
Actually, no, it was pretty bad. But if they made a decent, throw in a decent snowboarding game.
Yay.
They're gonna definitely
maybe multiplayer it.
Or you know how in Final Fantasy X where you can ride snowmobiles with anyone you want?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, can I choose to be Red 13 snowboarding? Can I be Ketchi?
Yay.
Ketchi would ride the Mog down.
I mean, there's nothing more entertaining than like a dog on a skateboard, so.
Yeah, I really like Cloud and Barrett's opening. I thought Barrett's a strong character. Cloud is still just wrapped in mystery. You kind of figure it's that old trope where your main character has amnesia and you're learning with him.
This was before that was a huge trope, though.
Yeah. I guess in video games, perhaps, but I feel like kind of that's just like old hat at this point in a lot of fantasy stories or sci-fi stories specifically.
Well, especially when you have a video game, it's really hard to tell a story where everyone has all these personal histories and it's all known right away, because you have to have characters who explain all that to you, essentially.
Yeah.
So you need like a POV character. Having someone as a blank slate is a really great way to create that level.
Because Squall kind of has that in 8 as well. But I feel like...
Well, the Guardian forces actually rob people of their memories the more you use them, because they literally take up consciousness. Did you know that?
I'm excited to play through 8. I've actually
never done it?
I've gotten like through it 2 or 3 times way back in the day, but I don't remember any of it.
So one of the things I found really interesting is that if you don't talk to everyone in these games, sometimes you really miss out on details. Like I talked to one of the garden masters, those guys with the funny hats in Final Fantasy VIII, and they, as you're off on your first mission, they go, when you're out there, don't let anyone tell you that using Guardian forces is bad for you. That's all lies. And I'm like, oh, shit. I wonder why.
Yeah. Who do I trust here? Everyone else or this one guy?
Well, and then you'll go into towns in 7 and there'll be it'll be a detail. Oh, my grandma's on welfare, and like, oh, okay. There's depth to these characters. And I don't know. Notoriously, Final Fantasy VII, though, has a really bad translation. Localization.
And I know that they're changing a lot of the dialogue and adding to the dialogue. I forget, was it Katase who was saying? The fact that we have voice acting now means all of it has to be changed, because before we just wanted to be kind of more economic and just get the point across for the characters, but now we want it to feel real, and I'm excited. I think that the voice acting for Barrett is fantastic. I love that Nojima has even said in the most recent making of video, he said, I'm not sure how people are going to like this, but I definitely lean into Cloud being lame and not cool for some things, because he tries so hard to be cool, like, let's mosey. And Sid's like, dude, can you quit saying let's mosey? Yeah. Just move out or something. Somehow they made Barrett not only look cool, but sound like a real person while screaming about the planet, Cloud, the live stream. He's just, he's still yelling and being over the top.
My concern is that they, like in the game, they devolve into Ebonics, but
I think that they're going to be fine here. It's fascinating to see how they took those character designs and modernized them while keeping the nuances. They found the balance, I think. Now, will they keep the balance for Nanaki, for Ketshi? I mean, Vincent Valentine is straight up like...
He's easy to do because he's just kind of going to talk like this.
I'm looking for Hojo.
Yeah. I'm looking for a man.
There's a lot that's going to be decided over the next few decades over these remakes.
Decades. I'm hoping the next one comes out at least 2 years from now.
I'm guessing within 3 at the latest. I say that they'll aim for 2 and it'll be 3 because they're going to want to just, again, fine-tune everything. I hope they don't...
This is going to sell like gangbusters anyway.
I hope they don't do any DLC for this.
They will.
I hope they don't.
They will.
Just push everything into the new stuff, but...
It's Square, baby. There's going to be an episode Tifa, an episode Barrett, and maybe even an episode Red 13.
I guess that could be okay.
That's what 15 was.
Yeah, but 15 sucked. It was okay.
Parts. Yeah. Honestly, it's a better Kingdom Hearts, but that's an opinion for another day.
Kingdom Hearts, my God. After that assault in the reactor, you get to Seventh Heaven, which is a very cool bar hideout for our terrorist organization. You get to... Well, actually, I guess you do meet Eris before that.
Oh, yeah. You bump into her on the street when she's selling shit in her cart.
I guess I didn't understand the dialogue options because she asked you something, and my first response was, it's pretty dangerous out here. Mm-hmm. And I guess that meant get the fuck away from me. Because I didn't buy a flower from her. I'm like, that's fine, because I was trying to date Tifa. Anyways, I was just like, that was my answer. Like, you shouldn't just be selling flowers. There's just a giant fucking explosion over there, lady.
And she's like, oh, whatever. I'm used to it.
I'm selling flowers for 5 gil.
Did you know Zach made her that cart?
Did you know that was a side quest in Crisis Core?
Oh, my gosh.
And she didn't like the first one you made, so you have to make another one.
I wish
Zach's like doing squats like, okay, I'll make another. Okay.
Okay.
I want to get laid.
Padding.
You get to Seventh Heaven, though, which is cool, and you get to meet Tifa, and you see that Barrett has a little white daughter, Marlene, which I think is cool that it's never addressed. They never talk about it, which is... I appreciate that subtlety.
Well, there's the mysteries there's the mysteries you present through detail, and then there's the mysteries that you push on the audience.
I like being told, like visually explain things rather than, exposition dumps. That's the greatest films have the mysteries visually that you have to like discover. I love that Barrett is this big mean fucking guy, and then he sees like
his daughter, and he melts.
He sees his daughter like a nest of baby birds on the way to like Coral. He's like, damn, look at these birds.
They need help.
He actually says like, hey, baby.
He's a big lug, like
marshmallow for sure.
Oh yeah, and it's interesting because when you do find out, that's really interesting, and like you don't have to develop theories. You let the thing unfold for you. It's not like with J.J. Abrams where they're constantly like, "This is a mystery. Look at the mystery. We're gonna focus on the mystery."
The mystery box.
Ugh, I hate mystery boxes. Just learn how to tell a good story. I'm still upset about Rise of Skywalker. So
I actually enjoyed it. It was so bad. It's just campy schlock, which they were not hitting the substance that they wanted to with those Star Wars movies. So at that point, it's like, got to go back into that camp, which the prequels nailed. The prequels, to me, had zero substance. They had some really good fucking campy schlock.
I'm going to be honest. Those movies are still fucking so watchable.
The prequels are way better than the sequels.
The sequels I get bored with until The Last Jedi, which I find watchable, if only because Rian Johnson is just a decent filmmaker.
I really like Knives Out.
I have to see that.
You should definitely see it.
I've got all the time.
But you're in Seventh Heaven, which you have a drink with Tifa at the bar, which fuck yeah. There's a lot of cool bars. Like every city also has a bar in it, which I appreciate.
Well, the graphics at the time too, there's a charm that comes along with this. Everything kind of feels like a Playmobil playset.
Yeah.
And everything is kind of sharp and angular, and it feels like you're playing with these little dioramas. And I still found that very charming in the port. They actually like crisped up the backgrounds a little. I mean, crisping up the polygons on Cloud is, you could have muddled them up a bit, smoothed those out. But
they were able to add a lot of details to the environments because they just have to draw them. They're not like having to actually make assets. So if someone wants to just draw in an AK-47 in Sid's house, it took them 2 seconds. It's there.
Well, that's what's really intriguing about this too, because originally they wanted to use all polygonal, but then they realized that if you set a grid and then you tilted the grid as a 3D space and then painted a layer on top of it, almost like animation cells, you could achieve the exact same thing. And then all you have to do is create layers, like in a Photoshop. It's really fantastic. I watched a video of how they might have done it. It was very interesting.
Sector 7 is pretty cool. You get to go to your first shops. You get to buy some materia.
Yeah.
You get to run into the epic character known as Johnny.
I forget.
Tifa's neighbor.
Oh, who's like in love with her.
He's in love with her. He also shows up at Wall Market at Costa del Sol.
He's a character in On the Way to a Smile.
In episode Denzel.
He's such a bitch.
You actually get his like inner monologue, like, I love Tifa. Tifa's so hot. I can't wait to talk to Tifa. I'm going to be nice to this kid because he knows Tifa.
And it explains basically that he like plagiarizes Tifa's bar.
Yep. He has like Johnny's Heaven or something.
Johnny's Heaven. And it's just like, get over it, dude.
He has a great line outside the night before you go and go to bed. He goes, geez, I'm blitzed. I just love those homemade cocktails, but they sure do creep up on you. And then you go in and you have like your story beats. You come out the next day and he says, I don't like to say it to myself, but I'm just a lonely guy when I'm not drinking.
Yes. I hear you.
Just drinking to fill that hole, Johnny.
Do what you gotta do.
I love some of like the NPC dialogue.
I know.
People are having fun with them.
Well, and especially the fact that they're in a slum. I think they really towed the line from it being like extremely depressing and just kind of like whimsically funny. If they had made it too depressing, I don't think people would have been into it as much.
Yeah, it's got like a dark comedy.
It's definitely that. Like they're reminding you, like, yes, this is where all the poor people live.
This person is depressed and drinks to fill his life up. But man, those homemade cocktails,
they sure do sneak up on you.
I don't like to say it to myself, but I'm just a lonely guy when I'm not drinking. We all are, Johnny. We feel for you, Johnny. And that character, I guarantee he gets a nice model. He gets expanded. He gets a lot of dialogue, probably. He gets a side quest in the remake.
He's going to be like Johnny from Metal Gear.
Is that the guy who shits himself?
Yeah.
Hopefully. And I know even just like the guy that drives the chocobo carriage that Tifa's in on the way to Wall Market, his character gets like a model.
What? Oh, okay. Well,
They're expanding on him.
That makes sense.
I think there's actually chocobo racing in Wall Market with
good.
Don Corneo's stuff too.
I hope it's fun.
Yeah. And you learn a little bit at Seventh Heaven about the promise that Cloud was always going to like protect Tifa. And you learn about them being kids and all of that stuff. And she convinces him to go on another mission. And he's like, as long as I get paid, and Barrett's a real dick about it.
And he's like, well, we paid you $1,000 this time. And he's like, $3,000 this time. And he just gets so angry.
Yeah. I do like that his gun arm has attachments, though. Like the different weapons, it's like the atomic scissors. He can get straight up melee weapons he attaches to that thing.
I really hope that comes into play because I really liked using the melee stuff for Barrett because I thought it was a little more interesting, not just like laser cannons and chain guns. He seems like a guy who would want to kick ass up close, too. The
gameplay, it's a little more deep than I think on surface level people realize because they don't explain it to you in tutorials. I guess you have an opportunity in Sector 7 slums there. There's like you can go into like the tutorial room and they'll explain this is a save point, this is a treasure chest. Like you have long range and short range. You can move your character forward or backward. Oh, yeah. You know the trick, get the long range materia with cover and you put Cloud in the back and then he gets hurt less because he's in the back and he can attack from back there.
Yep, counter, cover.
Sneak attack, Knights of the Round, W summon, final attack, Phoenix.
How glad were you to have ×3 when the summons came around?
Dude, fantastic. Oh my God.
So good. The one problem is they do the same thing in 8, but there's a little mini game you have to do to boost them.
You have to boost them.
It's kind of bunk in there.
I'm going to play 8 without the speed up function, I think, for most of it. And if I know myself, I'm just going to wind up playing the triple triad and just forget the rest of the game exists. I'll only beat the game to get the other cards in triple triad.
So the moment you get card refine from Quetzalcoatl, and then you just start playing the card game to get the best items early on so that you can refine that into magic so you can junction it right away. My characters are invincible right away.
Just bonkers. Yeah.
Like 3,000 HP at the beginning of the game. Are you fucking kidding me?
So there was actually some hacked, like dummy dialogue. There's a lot of content that was just cut out near the end of the game. But there's a dialogue in there outside of Seventh Heaven. Cloud talks to Tifa about chasing after Sephiroth for what he did in Nibelheim. And Tifa's like, why would you know anything about that? She's surprised. She didn't think Cloud would know anything about that.
Oh, that would have been such a little...
Like a little tease for what's coming. I think they should have had that moment, but I think they wanted to keep Sephiroth maybe close to the vest for a while.
Well, what's weird to me is that a lot of their problems, story-wise, could have been solved the moment they hit calm if Tifa had just fucking said anything.
I think it's one of those things where you don't want to wake a sleepwalker. Cloud is stable enough right now. We don't want to destroy his psyche. Maybe.
I mean, at the same time, like a realistic...
We're also following this dude around the world.
They actually might retcon that to some degree. Not like the key character moments, obviously. But I think they're going to have to do some real juggling in order to make that like cinematic and playable.
My first thought, so, you get out of Midgar.
Yeah.
Remake Part 2 comes out. You're out of Midgar. Is the first thing that's going to happen is you go to Calm and then you have a flashback for 2 hours?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm wondering if they move the Nibelheim flashback into Midgar. To me, you put it in there, and then, like, I don't know, the tutorial is, like, you can start off in Calm, and you can just go right away into, like, the Chocobo Ranch or whatever. I don't know.
But that would be a good design change, actually, because that would free up a lot of space for other stuff. But, I mean, that is such, like, a big part of that second act.
Spoiler alert for the remake. They did change the final villain. At the end of Midgar, you fight
the big roly man.
The big roly man. They changed it.
Who is it?
Sephiroth.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. So you're actually going to be fighting Sephiroth or Genova Foth or whatever you want to call it.
A projection of Sephiroth.
Yep. So that's going to be the end. I think that they will need to at least do a little more legwork for you to understand who Sephiroth is. I mean, maybe they move the Nibelheim flashback to when they're stuck in the cell.
Oh, that would be such, like, hey, we got a lot of time. Hey, Cloud, we got a lot of time to waste here. You might as well tell me a bit about yourself.
Tifa could say, you mentioned Nibelheim before.
What do you remember?
Yeah, Cloud, you spiky ass jerk.
And Eris is just like, this all sounds very familiar.
And Barrett's like, I'm locked in with the tiger thing. He doesn't like it when you pet him. Come here, kitty.
Does he talk?
I didn't know you could tattoo cats. That's crazy.
Damn, you got some good ink.
They're like, we got to take their weapons away from them. Barrett's like, I don't know what we're going to do here. I have a gun mounted to my arm, so...
That is one of the more entertaining parts, is that they just didn't remove their weapons.
So, yeah, I don't know about that.
Well, Barrett still had his, right?
Assault on Reactor 5 comes next, and Tifa decides to follow along and look after Cloud. But you know what's great? They're on a train getting to the next reactor. Barrett's in there. He's verbally assaulting some dude, talking about that cunt pizza, and he's like got a gun arm.
Cunt pizza, yes. Do you know what it's called when you have all those symbols in a row? And
what's it called?
It's called agrolix.
Agrolix.
It's a comic book term.
Well, you know what's great about agrolix is they're going to actually have like spoken acting now, like voice acting.
So, oh man, you think they're going to say it?
I think they're going to have some shits.
I hope there's a fuck thrown in there. I don't think they can. It's a teen game, right?
They're going to have you mother.
Yeah.
I don't know. If anything, they have to sneak in some, and then they'll have like Barrett cut off for comedic purposes before he can say fuck. But if there is one character that gets to say fuck, it's going to be Sid Highwind. If Sid doesn't say fuck at least once, and you can't use the word cunt.
What if he talks like this? Gosh darn it.
I was going to fly this rocket over here, but this fucking keeps giving me my goddamn teeth.
She ruined everything.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see that. But Agrolix, it worked in this. Voice acting will be different.
It's gonna be. I think this is gonna be a nice like study on how video games get preserved. Spoiler alert for my general feelings on Final Fantasy VII. This time, I found it to be a bit of a slog. Maybe I'm a picky man now. Maybe I just can't keep up. Maybe the game just didn't age the way I thought. Yeah. But I have a feeling in the future we're going to see a lot of remakes of games we've already played.
I don't think there's a single moment in the original Final Fantasy VII where you have the option in Midgar who's going to be in your party until you actually get Red 13, because Aeris is separated from you.
Yeah.
And then the pillar happens and she's sent away to go get Marlene, and you meet up with Barrett.
Yeah. Not until you actually leave like the dome of Midgar.
Right. So I think they're going to have to expand on that, because if you're going to be able to like level up your party and have endgame content.
Well, I have a feeling there are going to be like side things where you're like, you exit your apartment for the day and maybe you knock on someone's door, or maybe you pick someone up.
Maybe you get through the end of Midgar or not Midgar, like the end of Shinra Tower. And before you escape, you all like go back down to like your place, and then you have to like plan your like final escape. Maybe they're going to add that. That would be a way where you could have endgame content. But also that wouldn't work, because I think Red 13, they're going to make him just like a guest character. So we'll see how that goes.
Enough about the remake. Let's talk about the game.
Let's talk about the game.
We're just speculating.
Reactor 5 goes bad because Shinra knows what's up. You get separated and Cloud falls.
By a robot called the Airbuster.
Airbuster.
So stupid.
Yeah.
It uses like it creates like tornadoes. Like, what is it, like a failed vacuum robot that Shinra was trying to make?
You know what's cool in Crisis Core? They take a lot of those like little like guard scorpions and this or that,
yeah,
and they expand them into like a whole military line of.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. Oh yeah, you're right.
Crisis Core is really good at expanding on the enemies there. Dirge of Cerberus is fucking terrible at expanding on the lore of FF7.
It's edgelord the game.
But so Reactor 5, you get separated and you fall through a church. Do they believe it looks kind of like a Christian church, like a Catholic church?
Yeah, that's interesting.
I was like, who they pray into? Even Aeris prays, but she's just praying for holy to come down.
So in a lot of RPGs, especially ones from Japan. In Japan, they'll just use crosses, like in Dragon Quest. They'll actually just show the cross. They don't care. And it's the same thing with manga, too. Like, they even did it in, like, Full Metal Alchemist, where Greed was nailed to a cross. They changed the shape of it, or they took out the top part of the cross. I mean, I don't know. Are they going to... Do you think it's going to be Christian, or do you think they're just going to treat it kind of like this is an old dead religion, and maybe
it's like a place where you can worship the live stream or something, or just like
I don't think that's going to be. I don't think that's actually like a religion for most of the people.
Square is interesting in that they don't really. They'll grab little bits and pieces of mythology and religion, and they won't even use them right. They're like, this is a summon now, and it's this guy. It's just, I don't know. It's interesting that it's a church, and that's probably why one of the reasons everyone's like, Aeris is so virginal. It's like we find her in a church.
It's that, and it's also churches clearly just a symbol for people. Like it's an easy draw.
Yeah. He falls from the upper plate through a church onto a flower bed. Thank God for the flower bed. One, I imagine there's also just like some healing properties.
Pure magic in
anytime around Eris,
Yeah.
things grow and like life kind of flourishes just because of her like fact that she's half Cetra. He's woken up by Eris, who immediately just like starts throwing it at him.
Oh, yeah.
You should be my bodyguard. I think we should hang out. If you help me out, I'll go on a date with you. And Cloud's like, okay, I kind of fell through a church.
And then you find the Turks who are pursuing her.
Oh my gosh. Yep. Reno just enters the church while you're still talking to Eris. You can tell she gets a little like, we should go.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the introduction to the Turks, which people seem very fond of the Turks. Like people like to idolize them and think they're cool.
I don't get it.
Reno
They're really bad
destroys 1/8 of Midgar's population out of like a blind order from President Rufus.
But he's so jolly in Advent Children.
He is. He's comedic relief. And there's a couple moments in Advent Children where it works. You know, I do like it near the end where there's a motorcycle chase, and then all of a sudden Reno and Rude are standing there holding a bomb. I was like, that's funny. All right, that's good.
Yeah.
Most of it didn't work for me with him until like Rude does get his glasses knocked off at one point or stepped on, and he pulls out another pair. I'm like, all right, it's cool.
They're full of attitude. Obviously, they're the secret police of Shinra Corporation. They're the SS of Shinra.
Yeah. I mean, and Before Crisis is all about the Turks, and it's all about them fighting the original Avalanche, which was much more extreme. And did you know that every main character from Final Fantasy VII at some point joined up with the Turks or Avalanche at different points in the past because they needed to?
Oh, boy.
Even Vincent woke up in Before Crisis and helped out the Turks.
Oh, really?
I'm like, this doesn't add up, guys.
That doesn't work at all.
No, this doesn't work at all.
That was his self-imposed exile.
And Barrett actually helps the Turks stop Avalanche because the Turks convince him that Avalanche is the one that's going to blow up the reactor for Coral or something.
Oh, yuck. What the fuck?
Red 13.
This is all way too complicated.
Red 13 has a girlfriend in Before Crisis named Denna, however you want to say it. And she's like, you're a fucking coward. And then he gets captured.
Oh.
There's a lot. Before Crisis, whatever, the Turks. You know what's cool about the church as you're running away? There's a giant missile just fucking crashed through the church.
Yeah.
Which a lot of that little like background storytelling, I got there this time and I said, what the fuck? Why is there just a missile here?
Well, it's funny. Like this is
a failed attempt from Sid.
I think they really try to paint that this is a world in like forced peace. The world has been subjugated essentially. Wutai is now like a tourist destination.
Man, they do such a good job with just the marginalization of a culture and people being put down in different ways by this corporation. Yep. We want to put a reactor in Wutai. No, we're not doing that. Fuck you.
We will if we want to.
Yeah.
And that's also what's really interesting is just how they like move into a place and immediately just take control of everything. And even in places like the ice, like what's the ice place?
Icicle Inn.
But that's not the name of the town.
That's the name of the town.
What?
I believe so.
Icicle Inn. I don't know. It just feels really prevalent in today's society. Like this almost feels like very.
Yeah,
it was so ahead of its time.
They just call it Icicle Inn.
It's a beautiful little town.
Yeah, one of the places I might possibly want to retire until Kadaj shows up and burns it to the ground. Thanks, Kadaj.
Did Kadaj burn it down
at the end of Turks Are All Right?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I don't remember that.
Yep, before they have their big confrontation at the end.
Oh, good God.
And this is also like one of the first times there's a mini game, which there's a billion little mini games. Most of them are unnecessary. Not that they're unnecessary.
Is this the one where you're dropping
the
barrels?
Ugh. It's better than the CPR mini game, but it's...
So the problem with this one is that it takes place in a 3D space, but there's no mechanic. You don't know where these are being dropped. Eris was getting so pissed at me. She's like, dude, what are you doing?
What the fuck, dude?
It's like, you're so bad at dropping barrels. I mean, it's fine, though, because if you fight them, you get more experience anyway.
Yeah. Whenever I'm playing an RPG these days, it's always fight every battle, invest everything you can into luck points.
Oh, really?
I always put luck because then you're going to get better drops. You're going to get better criticals. Rather than always use attack power, if something has more materia slots for growth. I would rather be weaker and have my materia grow faster.
Oh, always. It doesn't really have too much of a...
It's a long-term investment.
It doesn't have too much of a... It doesn't really detriment it too much.
No, not too much.
It's like 0.1%, like a loss.
Worth investing.
And it's just HP. Like, if you have enough potions, which you can easily find in that game, and it's cheap.
This game is much easier to break than I remembered.
It's pretty easy to break.
It's pretty easy to break, and if you have a decent sense of what you're doing, I can't believe back in the day when I was a kid, I would just find a save point and buy some tents and just go and like grind as much as I could.
Yeah,
just using summons just to like try and level up.
Yeah,
so not necessary there, little Brad.
Nope, not at all.
You have a nice little date with Eris. You go to her house. But you know what's cool with her house is that plants everywhere. Things grow there. Nowhere else under the upper plate can anything grow, and that just shows more of what Eris is capable of.
Yeah, the nicest area of town. It makes you really wonder how much Elmira has to pay to keep that place fucking open.
And why don't people just come and trash it?
Yeah, I wonder that as well.
If I was a homeless vagrant, I would sleep there.
Yeah,
there's fucking materia just lying in there. You know,
there's like kind of sunshine, and I really wonder how that part of it works.
Yeah.
Do you think they're gonna have like artificial suns?
Well, there's just like little spots between the plates, I think, where like the sectors where the sun can come through.
Oh, so she's like
maybe on the cusp.
I never really thought about that before.
Then you go to Wall Market, essentially, is the next big story beat. Which
you see Tifa being carted away.
As you're you're on a fucking date at a playground, and Tifa is about to whore herself out to try and figure out how to like save the planet. Man, Don Corneo, he's a good character. Like not a good character, but he's a good character. You know what I mean?
Yeah, in the way that you needed a little villain at that point, and he's really appropriate for symbolizing the greed of poor people, basically fucking over poor people.
And he's a good representation of one of the lackeys of Shinra. He's down here able to have his own little kingdom, and all he has to do is just report to Shinra when things happen, and they'll like let him do what he wants to do.
Exactly.
The music is great in this little sequence. I imagine this whole thing is going to be fleshed out to be a big part of the remake.
I just can't wait to do those squats.
The squats. Here, I put Wall Market. Help someone take a dump. Investigate vending machines. Do squats. Peep in on the fuck room. And a hot tub with many, many dudes.
That vending machine where it's just a minigun that pops out of the roof and like attacks you, that's brutal.
Yeah. And then there's the other one where you actually have to stay in the hotel. And the guy's like, what's in their vending machines? Is that what's going on here? Go stay there. You have to bring medicine to a guy who can't shit so someone else can use the toilet.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
I like the diner. They have a cute little diner in there.
A nice little
you can get like the special
shop.
Whatever you get, and then they ask how it was, and Cloud can say, I've had better dog food. I like there are moments where Cloud can just be a total dick in the calm flashback in Tifa's place. I opened her dresser drawer. There's orthopedic underwear. She's like, Cloud, what the fuck? Like,
and then I played your piano. I guess, okay.
What happened with Sephiroth? There's orthopedic underwear. Cloud, come on. So the Honeybee Inn, I know they're expanding quite a bit for this. It's great. One of the things that happens, a lady takes you into one of the rooms you're staying in.
Oh, really?
And she says, do you hate being lonely? And Cloud says, you can respond with, cut the small talk.
Jesus.
Ooh.
Are all the lines going to be voice acted?
I hope so. I think so.
That's a crazy amount of voice acting.
Yeah, I sure hope that's the case. Maybe not like super NPC stuff, the background characters maybe, but I imagine this would be, are they going to have Cloud taking a bath with 10 dudes?
Yeah.
Who ask him if he wants to join their young bubbies group. Do you want to join a young bubbies group, Cloud? So
it's so a lot of that stuff. The first time I played this, I might have been maybe 12 years old. So much of that shit flew over my head the first time.
Yeah, I had no idea what was going on. Why am I in a hot tub?
It was very confusing. Like I'm like, but I'm a boy. I can't wear a dress.
Well, and then Cloud blacks out. Yeah. He has like a vision of Sephiroth, and he wakes up to a dude on top of him punching him to wake him up.
It's brutal.
They keep it ambiguous enough.
I have a feeling that's not going to happen in the remake.
Yeah. Do you remember the different rooms in Honeybee Inn?
No, but you had to go into everyone to get all the items.
You don't have to go into everyone. So there's the group room and the lovers room, which are the two different rooms you can stay in. And then there's the queen's room, which I think that was the room that has Reeve's parents, possibly, because if you look into one of the peepholes, you see a little Ketchi, and they're talking about their son on the upper plate. And then there's also the fuck room, which it has someone like cosplaying as a king, and I don't know, it's some weird shit going on in the fuck room.
I like the way that Don Corneo's sprite wiggles his butt as he tries to as he's about to jump on Tifa, and Tifa's like, we could talk a little beforehand. He's like, no, let's get to it.
Well, and for this playthrough, I tried to do it wrong because I wanted to. I've always got Cloud to be chosen, and I forgot what it was like to go to the other room because otherwise you don't get to see it.
Right? Yeah.
And I thought if I didn't get the makeup and the honeybee in, that would be enough. Because I thought that
you still got it.
I still got it. I was like, damn.
You can miss one thing.
I can miss one thing.
Yeah.
You get a dress, and you get one that shimmers and is soft. I think those are the two things you have to do.
Shimmers and soft. Yep.
And you get dressed up, and some of those pictures have been released for the remake. They look great. Corneo looks perfectly vile for the remake.
Yeah, he's supposed to.
I really liked how they brought Corneo back in The Turks Are All Right.
Oh, what did they do?
That book with... Did you read it?
I read...
You didn't.
I speed read.
Did you miss the whole Corneo section where he has to go deal with Corneo to get gas for his truck? You missed it. Damn, dude, that's good. He has to go deal with... Cloud sends him to Corneo. Just tell him Cloud sent you. He won't, like... The only person that has any power over Corneo after the main game is Cloud. He's like, I can't fuck with that guy.
Wait. Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, and he has to go deal with Corneo, who can't walk anymore because he falls in Wutai. But Corneo's new thing is he has just pictures of everybody, and he just he'd go to those like missing people's boards and just take all their pictures, and he just stockpiles pictures to like use against people.
Oh.
The main character even sees a picture of Cloud, Tifa, and Aerith, all like, because he'll take a picture of them at Wall Market when they're all dressed up. The main character's like, I don't know why this seems important.
It's funny. So usually my first few times Tifa was chosen because I didn't bother with the dress. It's very funny how they basically emasculate him. They barge in and Cloud's like, I'm not really a woman. And then he throws his dress away, and then Corneo's like, oh shit. Even in the polygonal sprite, he's just like, oh no, I thought that. Well, and then they basically all threaten to smash his nuts up and chop off his dick.
I'll bite him off.
Yeah, I'll bite him off. He would probably like that though. And then he's
a perfect villain too, because he gives you the option, like, why do you think I would go along this far? Like, and the answer is because he knows he's going to win. Trapdoor. I like the train graveyard section.
It's cool. There's a mild puzzle.
I don't know if they're going to expand on that. There's also black like hooded figures, which almost look like Dementors from Harry Potter that are chasing after people in a lot of the remake. And I think
those are the failed Sephiroth clones.
I think they're going to be including that as more of a thing that's just always plaguing the group.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
Which makes sense.
I mean, Hojo tried real hard. Well, because at this point, everyone thought Sephiroth was dead for so long.
But before Corneo drops him through there, he also mentions they're going to blow up the pillar and destroy your little like Sector 7.
Oh, so you gotta get there quick to save Marlene and all the other people. And by the time you get back, they're all fighting already.
Yeah, you walk into the room and Biggs falls from the top of the pillar and just lands. And like he says, I hope you liked me, Cloud, or something like that.
Yeah, it's really disturbing because I thought he was going to be okay. I was like, oh, it's the dude. He's the big chubby guy.
He's the guy.
You know.
Did you watch Breaking Bad?
No, I never saw it.
Okay, he's voiced by one of like the funny characters.
Oh, really?
And for the remake, yeah.
Oh, that's hilarious. Then you basically go up the pillar and then you find Jessie. She's dying.
Yep, and Aerith gets sent away to go find Marlene. Yep. So you're going up with Barrett and Tifa. Jessie, I don't know if she was dead right away or not. They're really making her character a lot more for the remake, though. I think everyone's already just like, damn, screw Aerith and Tifa.
She's smoking.
What's up with Jessie?
Yeah, she's smoking. I saw her picture. I was like, oh shit. She's very flirtatious in this, from what I understand.
And I'm wondering, do you think that they would even add new characters for the remake? Because you could just
playables.
I don't know. Biggs, Wedge, and Jessie, I think, all have opportunities to be like just kind of even maybe just a guest. I think a guest character, maybe not a playable character.
Yeah,
That requires a little less work, but if they're expanding these characters to be more fleshed out, that'd be cool. They're all going to have more story behind them, I guarantee it.
I mean, you're like, I hate to say it, but like when they made the plan to just make it all Midgar, they have to waste some time. They have to put in some padding. Mm-hmm. I think actually a lot of Final Fantasy VII is padding. I think they give you a ton of stuff to do. If you play straight through the story, it's not that long of a video game. It's easily, you can get it done in 25 hours.
I think I got mine in 22 and a half this time.
Well, you had the ×3 function.
Yeah, and I also wasted 3 hours chocobo racing.
And so they blow up the pillar.
A lot of this is getting expanded on for the remake. I know this as well. You actually get to follow Eris as she goes to get Marlene. You get to see Sung, which is pretty cool.
Oh, that is cool.
Yeah, so you get to see some of the other stuff that happens. I'm sure you're going to see Eris up in Shinra Tower before you get to her. Mm-hmm. They're going to bring a lot of extra things, and I think they're going to make
a lot of Hojo
Shinra much more menacing. Scarlet and Heidegger, I think, are going to be real characters instead of laugh jokes.
I can't wait for that slap fight
where she's like, "That's enough, you bitch," and then she slaps her back.
And it's like Tifa's a brawler. Why the fuck is she slapping?
She can literally pick up Diamond Weapon and do like a pile driver, and she slaps Scarlet.
She's like, "You bitch." I mean, there's something there's something really fun and catty about that. Yeah, they'll probably do it, but play it for laughs. So they blow up the pillar, and you don't know if Marlene is dead, and Barrett flips the fuck out. And then he's like, well, I'm going to kill him. I'm going to kill all of them. And he just goes into like a blind rage.
But Eris is in the helicopter.
And she's like, she's okay.
Yeah, although Barrett still didn't hear that. It's not until Tifa's like, I think she said she's fine, Barrett.
Yeah.
Calm down.
Well, and then he decides that they decide that they have to rescue her.
Which I remember playing this back in the day. This felt like a mammoth task. I imagine in the remake it'll be like a 4-hour, 5-hour thing, at least, because in the original it was at least an hour, probably 2 hours.
I would imagine that there's going to be a lot more floors, as long as I don't have to do that stupid reassembling puzzle.
Garbage mini game. You can go up the long way, or you can just barge your way in. From just a tactical way about it, you should sneak in. But what I do is I go up, I grab the item, and then I go back down, and then I barge in because there's like an item up there on the way.
I just fight because it's not like I can't heal myself or...
It's just good. It's just experience points.
And it's not a game that scales with you, so you can just basically make yourself a machine.
You have maybe 10 random battles before you get to that same floor you would have anyways.
You still have to sneak, though. So you still have to hide behind those pillars as the patrols go by.
I remember it being much more difficult when I was a kid.
I remember feeling genuine dread. But yeah, you sneak a little, you do a lot of fighting.
I don't think there's anything too special to note. On most of that going up the tower, you get to see Ketshi's ultimate weapon, but you're like, why the fuck would I take this megaphone? And you put it back.
Yeah.
You climb up a bathroom into the duct, and you get to spy on a Shinra meeting. Reeve wants to rebuild Sector 7. Mm-hmm. And the president's like, no, we're not fucking rebuilding that.
We're gonna find the Forbidden City, and we're gonna build it there. Neo Midgar.
We're going to the Promised Land, and we're building a new one. And a nice little moment at the end, as on the way out, it smells like someone's like, it smells like shit in here. It's like, well, yeah, it's because you have a duct that goes directly from a toilet right to your office.
Not a really well designed building, I'll say that.
Yeah, that's our first time seeing Reeve, though, who becomes a pretty big character.
You know, like even when they revealed it, I was kind of, who? Oh, it's just some guy who works for Shinra. Oh, it's Reeve. And I'm like, who?
Yeah, his character doesn't have too much to do.
You don't see his character model a lot at all.
Almost never. You think at some point he would meet up with the characters, even at the end.
He should be hanging out in the high wind.
Right. But maybe they didn't want to address how he actually controls Ketshi.
In Dirge of Cerberus, don't they do that a little?
Well, I know at one point in Dirge of Cerberus, Reeve is sitting on like a seat. Next to him is Ketshi sitting next to him, and they're like talk to each other.
That's a little much.
Because he's like not controlling him, but he's maybe like influencing him, or maybe it's part of like mind control magic.
Tell me the cat is not his fuck doll.
No,
the big Moogle is.
The Moogle is. I mean, if you're gonna fuck something, it's gonna be Moogie.
Big and squishy, yeah. Moogie. That's canon. Cut and print.
yeah, then it's pretty much end of the Shinra Tower stuff. You run into Hojo's lab, and you do see the tank that has the same Genova specimen from Nibelheim 5 years ago.
And it causes Cloud to wig out.
It's missing a head.
And they're attempting to breed Aerith with Red 13.
Okay, so this is Hojo. Hojo, everybody. He's a scientist, and the first science we see him doing is two species unrelated. He's like, I'm going to put them in a container.
Chamber, and they're going to fuck.
Just make them fuck. He's like the lead scientist for Shinra. They have put all of their
I know,
their money and power into him.
Well, you know, a lot of Hojo doesn't make sense because when you get into Vincent's backstory, Lucrezia, she and Vincent were getting close, and then she suddenly decides to fuck Hojo.
I'm so excited for them to make him into a baller, playboy.
When he's younger, maybe
I'm so cool. Because I don't know. I mean, I know.
Do you think we're going to get handsome Hojo?
Handsome Hojo, not just cackling Hojo.
Young handsome Hojo, maybe not old. Like maybe he got warped.
He's got to have something over the president, because at some point, why are they letting Hojo keep doing what he does? You think that there'd be at least one reasonable person who says, Hojo's lost his shit. Can you guys not see that? I know that he was responsible. I mean,
he found Genova.
Gast found Genova. Eris's dad found Genova.
Oh, right.
But Hojo was the one who was just like, I'm going to start injecting it into everything I see. Fuck it.
Yeah. Or that other unmentioned one.
Hollander?
Hollander, thank you, from Crisis Core.
And I love, even there's 2 or 3 scientist characters in The Kids Are All Right, the Turk side story. Every one of them says one thing, but they're just lying. They're trying to get their hands on Genova cells or just trick people. One of them, the doctor in Under Junon, admits to copping a feel over the main character's girlfriend while she's she was asleep. Yuck. Ugh. There's not a single good scientist outside of Gast in all of Final Fantasy VII's extended lore. He's responsible.
Bugenhagen. He's technically a scientist.
And actually, he used to work for Shinra too.
Yeah.
Which is interesting to note.
Back when they were a power company.
And one of his disciples is one of the leaders of the original Avalanche. Avalanche started in Cosmo Canyon, actually.
Yeah, I'm choosing not to.
Not to go with that.
If you didn't mention those characters in the first game, I doubt that's even going to be canon in this one. So
I think it will because they mentioned Avalanche in one of the cutscenes early on in the remake. They say Avalanche, and then they say not that other group though. This is a different Avalanche or something like that.
Oh no,
it's still canon. I bet at some point they're going to be referencing Dirge of Cerberus, Deep Ground having soldiers underneath Midgar too, because that's actively going on during 7. It'll be real background shit. It'll be obscure notes found in rooms, but I bet you get some references to that stuff.
Maybe nods, hopefully.
I know one of the characters from The Kids Are All Right. They've said at least one of the characters that's original to that book is going to be in Midgar.
Oh, I mean, what a treat for the person who wrote that.
Well, it's Kazuhige Nojima. That's the guy who came up with the scenario for 7, 8, 10.
The co-writer, yeah.
Kingdom Hearts. He did the story for Super Smash Brothers.
He wrote Kingdom Hearts.
He's the scenario. He's one of the guys who came up with the story for it. Yeah, him and Nomura.
Well, don't let Nomura near any laptop with Word documents open.
Nomura Unchained.
I'd hate.
This is a Nobody's Darkness side.
Remember when I got taken off that game I really wanted to make? I'm just going to insert that into a previously established thing.
I'm super surprised at how good the remake looks.
Why? I mean, they've always been.
No, I knew that they were Final Fantasy 15, it looks great, but I couldn't play it for that long. I didn't care for the battle system. A lot of it just didn't feel right. The remake demo, it feels fresh. It feels modern. The dialogue flows. It somehow manages to hit nostalgia points.
I have a feeling quality control was so tight on this, they weren't going to get away with making anything. This is probably a Nintendo level of quality control.
It's one of those baffling things. It's like with the DC movie universe. You have so much money and you could pay to have anyone make the right choices. How do you continually make the wrong choice for these things?
Well, because they do a lot of focus testing.
They think they're doing the right thing, but they're going to stick the landing on the remake, I believe, in a big way.
Oh, I guarantee it.
You find Hojo's lab, and he's trying to just make those two fuck. Real science. Square
peg, round hole.
Oh, my God. you get to meet Red 13, who has this great thing of like, they're like, what's your name? He goes, call me whatever you like.
Call me my slave name.
Call me by my slave name. And you mentioned this before, where you hope that he wants, like, I'm going to stick with this Red 13 because I want Shinra to know that
who did this.
Yeah. That's the only way to make it work.
Yeah. It's the only way.
Only way. Otherwise, you are a Native American based character, like taking on like a subjugated name. But if that's going to be like your badass vengeance name, okay.
One of my favorite characters, it's very interesting that they chose a lion character.
He was less interesting on a replay than I thought he would be.
He's not like an important character.
His design's great though. You're right
stellar.
about that. Yeah.
There a fun fact about this one when they were, because all the weapons look different for each of the characters. When they were designing the clips, like the hair clips,
they couldn't do it.
Yeah. They couldn't make it look good, so they just completely like threw it out the door. They're like, well, screw it. And you didn't need to anyway. Most people were like, oh, hell yeah, a lion. That's fucking cool.
He just runs in head first and hits him.
Yeah. He sled fang.
When Red 13 gets out and bites Hojo's face and he actually pulls on Hojo's face.
Oh, yeah.
It looks so brutal.
I wonder what if he gets like a scar from that? That'd be cool.
Yeah. He should get that same scar that Red 13 has over his eye.
Ooh, that would be interesting.
But then the game takes a major tonal shift here, and
the guards haven't checked on us in a while.
You wake up to a fucking bloodbath. There's blood everywhere.
And there's trails of blood that you can follow directly.
Yep.
And then when you finally find the president, he is stabbed through the back with a super long sword, 11 feet long.
And how do you pronounce that?
The Masamune.
Masamune.
Yeah.
Genova cells have figured out a way to recreate Masamune and leave it places because that is not Sephiroth's real Masamune.
I mean, it's not real Sephiroth until you reach the northern crater anyway.
Which is crazy. That is bonkers. And does he have remote control over Genova cells? Because those Genova cells reacting to Cloud's memories and they're choosing to look like Sephiroth because it was most powerful to...
No, he's projecting it.
Because I do think...
Because Genova was a shapeshifter anyway.
But I do believe that the reason Genova did wake up was because Cloud was close and looked into the thing and had a reaction to his Genova cells.
Sure.
I think that's why Genova did wake up and explode out of there and start killing people.
That's possible. Oh, and it's really interesting. Something they really could have explained better in the first game, because I actually thought I was chasing Sephiroth. And when you get to the northern crater, you're like, wait, what?
I'm still fuzzy on how much control Sephiroth has versus how much Genova is influencing him.
It's meant to be vague.
I mean,
he's a corrupted individual.
For a while, I was thinking it was mostly Genova that was controlling stuff. But then I came around, it's like, no, Sephiroth has such a strong will. I think that he's able to exert some control over Genova.
It might be like mutually beneficial for the both of them too.
That's probably what it is.
So Genova doesn't really have to have a voice, because Sephiroth will just take care of that for everyone. So
there is such a perfect ramping up, some escalation.
Yeah.
So you find Sephiroth's sword, and then you confront the President Rufus. And
the new president, his son.
Yep, and his dog, Dark Nation. Great name for a dog.
Dark Nation.
Nation.
I had no fucking clue.
The party escapes. They fight the enemies on the elevators.
Cloud fights him one-on-one.
Hopefully you made the right choice to bring some long-range attackers for the elevator fights. Otherwise, you were relying on some magic, or at least having the right materia set up.
Oh, that's a really confusing part where you have to switch out all your materia. The amount of times I've accidentally just not equipped materia properly and going into that elevator sequence. You can get through it. It just takes like 3 times as long.
The great chase sequence.
On the G-Bike.
And the Hardy Daytona. Do you know that they spent a lot of time creating a motorcycle racing, like, bike battle spin-off game? They spent a lot of time, like, even the Airbuster or the Guard Scorpion was going to be one of the bosses you fought in it.
So I'm a little unclear anyway as to why Sephiroth has to do all the traveling that he does. And I think it is all literally to lure Cloud to him to eventually give him the black materia. I think that it was his ploy all along. He had to get Cloud close to him because according to all like the supplementary material that I've read, he's obsessed with Cloud because Cloud is the one person who was able to defeat him.
Yeah, which is still hard to explain.
Cloud beats him in the same way that he basically just pushes him off a ledge.
He lifts up the sword that he's
Yeah.
impaled with and throws him off. But yeah, Sephiroth does have a fixation on Cloud. And, even the whole, over the course of Advent Children, the reason that Sephiroth's able to come back is because he realized if he focused all of his thoughts on one person, he could maintain his being inside of the life stream. And so he focuses hatred on Cloud.
Much like the Cetra can maintain their consciousness.
Because otherwise, Sephiroth goes to Junon, goes to Nibelheim, goes to Rocket Town, then you wind up for the Temple of the Ancients, and Sephiroth is going towards the black materia.
Deliberately, yes.
Maybe not to lure you, maybe to lure you.
Maybe
but
to get it himself, even.
He wants to get it himself, and the party do speculate then. Sephiroth, at this point, is just trying to protect the Promised Land. We fight a roly-poly dude at the end of a bridge.
What's it called? Mad Wheels or something like that? Mad Wheeler?
We'll go with Big Wheel.
Big Wheel. It's a nice fight, and it's a really good end cap to that section of the game. You reach the end of a highway, and then you're basically just confronting something. It seems like insurmountable almost, and then you do it.
And it'll be Sephiroth instead.
And one thing I really hope is that he isn't constantly just being plagued by Sephiroth as a voice in his head, or he sees hallucinations of him, because I think I hate that kind of trope. I really liked how they unveil Sephiroth in this game, because Cloud's not even thinking about Sephiroth until it's revealed that Sephiroth's there, and he's like, oh shit, he's alive?
His name is only mentioned one time before that, and that's in the flashback in Seventh Heaven, where he says, I'm going to become a soldier like Sephiroth.
A great soldier like Sephiroth.
This episode is being released the day before the remake comes out. If you're an Australian listener, which we have a few, you might have already gotten halfway through the game.
And our conversation meant nothing to you.
We're the Raw Dogs. We're Brad and Dylan.
Absolutely. Call me Big Tex.
Call him Big Tex. If you've got this far, it means you don't hate us that much. It would really mean a lot if you could write a review, like and subscribe, do anything you can that way. We're still a pretty young podcast. What's another way they can support us, Dylan?
We have Patreon. We're unveiling some new tiers soon.
They're actually up.
Oh, they're up now?
They're up now,
okay. Okay. And there are various things you can get from that. Brad made a very fabulous video. We ate Hot Ones wings.
Yes, we did.
There's video of us torturing ourselves, essentially, while answering video game questions. We also have an audience. It's very laugh out loud. My girlfriend, who is very hard to impress, actually laughed a ton. So definitely check that out.
That's at the $5 tier. You can also just if you can just throw us $1, that would mean a lot. We also are going to have some exclusive podcast episodes that'll be Patreon only. And we're with Hair of the Dogcast. You can find us on Twitter at HotDogcast, Hair of the Dogcast on Instagram and Facebook. You stay at home, play Final Fantasy VII, and go to Honeybee Inn. But just be careful. Don't get in any hot tubs. Unless you want to.
Get your money, America. Get your money, world. Take care of yourself. Drink a lot of orange juice.
This has been Raw Dogs. We'll see you next time.